Izuku groaned for the 7th time as he saw the school getting closer, Aldera Junior High, the place he would be enrolled at for the next few years. Aizu, it won't be bad, I promise. Inko looked at her son as she parked the car. They will just do the same as everyone else. Izuku's ever-tired voice said. Once they find out my quirk, they will just avoid me without question. I am sure this time it will be different. Inko said. You know that my old friend Mitsuki's daughter goes here? Why did we even leave Tokyo? It was better there. Izuku asked. You know that your father just got a teaching job at UA. The commute is better this way. But I wouldn't have to repeat this whole thing again. The boy said. He didn't like how everyone heard the most watered-down version of his quirk and would distance themselves from him, which was idiotic. His quirk wasn't nearly as bad as everyone made it out to be, but then again the other kids his age were idiots. Try to see if Mitsuki's daughter wants to be friends. Inko tried one more time to encourage her son. I will try. Izuku sighed. Will Dad be home today? He better be. Inko said. Lord knows he doesn't do much outside the house. Inko ruffled her son's messy green hair that fell all over his head. I promise it will be different this time. Izuku gave a weak smile. See you after school, Mom. Love you, sweetie. The caring mother watched her son head into the school. Katsumi glared at everyone as she made her way to her homeroom, just waiting for them to try to mess with her so she could set off her explosive quirk. Of course, no same kid in Mizutofu would mess with her. She was Katsumi Bakugo, the girl with the explosive and powerful quirk and equally explosive temper. Everyone basically worshipped the ground she walked on. She had a powerful quirk, was intelligent, had looks that most girls were insanely jealous of, and had a clear set path to the top. Feeling something off about her shoe, she looked down to see a piece of gum had stuck itself to her shoe. Cursing under her breath, she wanted to fight the dumbass who spit their gum out in the hallway. Before she could look back up to where she bumped into someone and fell backwards onto her rear. Watch it, dumbass. Katsumi snapped as she started to pick herself up. People turned to look, wondering which poor soul pissed off Katsumi this time. I know you aren't referring to me when you were the one looking at the ground. A tired voice said. That would mean you were calling yourself a dumbass. Katsumi felt rage as she looked at the person who just made the worst mistake of their life. He was a boy who looked to be the same age as her. His eyes were a sparkling green that looked like they had so much life, but they also looked bloodshot and tired, as if this boy doesn't sleep for more than minutes at a time. His green hair was shoulder length and hung down around his head in a mess like it desperately needs to be combed. He had a neutral expression bordering on tired that made it seem like he wouldn't care about this at all if he even had the energy to. The fuck did you just say to me? Katsumi snapped. I said that you definitely weren't talking about me being a dumbass, not watching their step, when you were the one who was staring at their shoes. The boy's voice even seemed tired. Katsumi had never seen him before, so he must be a transfer student or new to Aldera and the area if he was saying something like this to her. You must be new here. Katsumi started. So let me tell you how it works. You should apologize and beg for mercy before I blow your dumb face off. Izuku didn't respond in any way to the girl in front of him immediately. If he had to be honest, the girl was kind of attractive. Her ashy blonde hair was somewhat spiky and pulled into a short ponytail. She had crimson eyes that if they didn't have that hateful look he would say were the prettiest eyes he has seen in his 12 years alive. Going off of her threat to blow his face off, he assumed she had a quirk that probably was as violent as her temper was. So he activating his quirk, his hair starting to float upwards, and his eyes giving off a lime green glow. I won't apologize for something I didn't cause or do. Fine then, have it your way. The girl tried to throw an open palm strike at his face, Izuku sidestepping it and spinning her arm behind her as he got on that side of her. Everyone looked surprised as he was somehow quicker than the girl and putting her into an arm lock. Shouldn't attack someone like that. That is not good behavior. Izuku almost yawned, his quirk making him feel a little tired. Katsumi had wide eyes. Did this loser just completely dodge an explosion? Speaking of which, why didn't her palm erupt with the explosions of her quirk? Did he do something to her quirk? It would make sense seeing as how his eyes had started glowing and his hair was floating. When I let go, don't try to attack me again, Izuku said, not helping but noticing that she smelled like caramel. Letting go of her, he still had his quirk activated on her solely. He turned and walked away to his class. Katsumi glared at his back. As he rounded a corner, she felt her palms start to explode with her quirk, meaning it was in fact that kid that did something to her quirk. Did he have a quirk that canceled out other quirks? Did Bakugo just get her ass handed to her? An upper-class-man asked out loud. Katsumi decided to take out her frustrations on that dumbass. In his new homeroom, Izuku put his head down on his desk, feeling drained because of his quirk. A small nap wouldn't kill anyone. So do you think we will be lucky this time? Izuku heard a girl ask. No, seeing as how it seems like no matter what Bakugo always is in some of mood, she will snap at us first. A second female voice said. I hope not. She is getting too scary. The first one shivered. Izuku decided that he didn't care who this Bakugo was and let his mind wander as he slipped into a nice nap, which was quickly ended when he heard the loud crash of a book hitting part of his desk not occupied by his arms or head. Izuku opened his eyes to look up and saw the rage-filled crimson eyes of the girl from the hallway. Hello, fuckhead, the girl said with spite. What did you do to my quirk? Izuku decided to not engage her in conversation and closed his eyes and went back to trying to take a nap. She would have to go to her class in a second anyways. Hey, the girl snapped. I was talking to you, loser. The students watching heard a low groan from the boy, who still had his head down. I wasn't talking to you, so go away. Izuku's muffled voice came out. The class was wondering if this kid was an idiot messing with Katsumi like that, or just had big balls. Katsumi's eye twitched, and small explosions popped in her palms. Listen here, asshole. Katsumi tried to hit Izuku, but he moved away again and repeated the process of pinning her arms behind her, his eyes glowing and hair floating. No, you listen, Izuku said quietly. I don't care about whatever ego you have here. Go bother someone else. Izuku pushed her away slightly. Katsumi had never felt as pissed off as she did right there. It didn't help that her explosions were again gone. The students were all pulling out their phones, some even coming in from the hallway at the sounds of a possible fight. The allure of someone actively picking a fight with Katsumi of all people being a huge aspect of the attention the scene got. That's enough roughhousing, a teacher said as he walked into the room. Everyone to their seats. Izuku sat back down, with the girl taking the seat in front of him, but not before giving him a dirty look. Izuku ignored it and questioned the integrity of the teacher if he called that roughhousing. Today we have two things. First, I want to announce we will be learning more about a new type of quirks and also introducing a new student, who you all have already met apparently. Izuku would have preferred if they just ignored his new presence and carried on, and he knew this quirk lesson probably had to do with him. The school practically drooled at the idea of Izuku enrolling there because of his unique quirk. He had no doubt it was because the school just wanted name recognition when he inevitably goes to a big high school, like UA, which he wants to attend like his father before him. Can you introduce yourself to the class? The teacher asked Izuku, all heads turning to him. Stifling a groan, Izuku spoke. I am Izuku Aizawa. Izuku ended it there. Why bother saying your likes or dislikes when you don't want to actually engage in anything with those people? Can you try again? The teacher seemed annoyed. Tell us about yourself. Izuku exhaled in annoyance. He really wanted to just sleep at that moment, figuring if he just says one or two things they will be satisfied and leave him alone. I like caramel and dislike people wanting to know my private stuff. Izuku felt like that was more than enough for them. What is your quirk? A random kid asked. Izuku knew once he said it people would overreact like idiots. However, before he could respond, the teacher spoke. He actually has the unique type of quirk that we will be learning about today. Izuku felt like that was a better answer than him grumbling his response of the half of his quirk everyone dislikes. What type of quirk? The type still has no official name, but he actually has both of his parents' quirks. Izuku didn't like how this guy was giving out his information. So, big deal, I also have both of my parents' quirks, Katsumi said, thinking that Izuku was nothing special. You are correct, Bakugo, the teacher said. You actually have a fusion of your parents' quirks that created your explosions. Aizawa here, however, has both quirks side by side. What? A random kid asked KM confusion. He has two quirks? No fair. Another kid whined. What are they? Katsumi narrowed her eyes. It didn't matter how many quirks he had. he was still a loser compared to her. Izuku, as much as he didn't want to be part of this, didn't like others talking for him, so he spoke. I inherited telekinetic energy from my mother and the ability to momentarily erase a quirk from being used. Izuku used emphasis on the momentarily. Katsumi now understood what happened earlier with her quirk. The dumbass turned it off to protect himself. His glowing eyes and hair starting to float must be a tell of the erasing being on. Wait, you can erase my quirk? A girl seemed offended by the idea. As long as I can hold my power, yes. Izuku answered her, expecting more people to start reacting the same way. PSSH doesn't matter. Katsumi said, even with my quirk off, I can still beat your ass. Izuku wanted to point out how she never got a hit on him, but took that as his chance for the subject to change, which it did as the teacher began to talk more about quirks. For once, Izuku wasn't immediately hated for his quirk. School was over and Izuku was walking home, having seen his mom send a text saying she would be late from work. The sun bothering Izuku's eyes, so he was squinting. Hey! Izuku wanted to groan as he heard the voice of Katsumi. Not wanting to make it worse, he stopped moving. Aizawa. What? Fight me, Katsumi said as she stood in front of him, just a couple of centimeters taller than him. Why would I do that? Izuku asked. So I can beat your ass into its proper place. Katsumi answered him. No. Katsumi looked offended and confused. Was this girl not used to hearing the word no? Why not? Katsumi asked. Because I think it would be pointless to fight. The tired boy started walking again. Fight me, Katsumi demanded. No. Fight me. No. Fight me. No, quit asking. Izuku wanted to smack his head against the pavement to end this. I'm not asking, I am demanding. Katsumi pushed him. Izuku didn't react like she wanted. Instead of fighting back, he continued walking. Come on. What are you? A bitch? So, I would be a bitch just because I don't want to be in a fight I see is pointless? Izuku still kept walking, 2/3 of the way home. You're just afraid of losing. Katsumi jumped in front of him, blocking his path. Izuku didn't even blink. I doubt even you believe that. Katsumi narrowed her eyes. Prove it. This is pointless. Izuku tried to move around her, only for her to step back into his path. Just think of it as a stupid test for your dumb quirk then, Katsumi stated. I don't need to or feel like testing my abilities against yours. Well, it's a surprise test. Katsumi tried to attack Izuku. Izuku jumped back away from her, dodging the strikes that were riddled with explosives. This counts as assault, Izuku said as he smacked one of her arms away. Fight back. Katsumi got irritated with his dodging, his only strikes being to block hers. Izuku scowled before using his telekinetic power to hold her in the air, his eyes and hands starting to glow lime green. Katsumi fidgeting to get out of his hold. Stop, Izuku said in a flat tone. Katsumi surprisingly stopped, however not without continuing a glare at Izuku, noticing the slow drip of a drop of blood from his nose, making her believe it is mentally straining for him to hold objects. I'm going to put you down, but you seriously need to stop, Izuku said as he lowered her back to the ground, letting her stand on her feet. I don't care about this ego problem you have, so don't try to involve me in it. Katsumi still glared at him, but didn't do anything to attack him once she was released. Izuku walked past her silently, noticing but not reacting when she started walking beside him. After a couple of minutes of silence, Katsumi turned away from him and into an apartment building, one that was actually just around the corner from Izuku's. Izuku didn't show any sort of response to the separating, continuing down the sidewalk. Katsumi didn't make a sound as she entered her home, which made her mother look at her in confusion as she watched her daughter walk silently to her room. Hey sweetie, how was school? Mitsuki said, gaining no response. Honey. Yeah. Masaru Bakugo walked into the room from the kitchen. Did Katsumi come home all right? She was actually quiet for once, Mitsuki said. Masaru raised an eyebrow, and they both went to check on their daughter. Masaru knocked on his daughter's door. Katsumi, are you okay? They got no response. Mitsuki opened her daughter's door, and they found her face down on her bed, like just walked in and dropped there. Katsumi, what's wrong? HMBMMH, MHMFMMM. Katsumi mumbled through her sheets. What? Mitsuki sat on the edge of the bed while Masaru pulled over the chair from Katsumi's desk. Honey, we can't hear you through the bed. Katsumi lifted her head slightly off of the bed. He beat me in a fight. What boy put their hands on my daughter? Mitsuki shouted. I will twist his little dash. Masaru put a hand on Mitsuki's shoulder to calm her down. Sweetie, who tried to fight you? His name is Izuku Aizawa. Katsumi answered. Mitsuki looked surprised. Aizawa. Her daughter nodded. Now I have to yell at Inko about her son? I started the fight. Katsumi stated, wondering who Inko was and how her mom apparently knew the family. Why did you start the fight, honey? Masaru was fighting the urge to pinch the bridge of his nose. He didn't understand who I was. Katsumi said. Mitsuki looked at Masaru like she completely understood the situation, which was true, because she had a similar situation when she first met her husband. So you thought that fighting him would show him how strong and great you were? Katsumi nodded into her sheets. But he ended it without even touching me. Oh, Mitsuki was surprised. How did he do that? He made me float. Katsumi said. Oh, so should I call his mom and have them come over and sort this out? Katsumi looked up at her mother in confusion. What? Well, I know the Aizawas because I am friends with Izuku's mom. Never have met the boy, however. Mitsuki said. I can call her and have you two apologize for any misunderstanding. Katsumi put her face back in her sheets. I'm not apologizing for anything. That wasn't a no. Mitsuki grinned, getting up to go get her phone. Masaru, honey, we are having guests for dinner. I don't want him here. Katsumi shouted after her mom. I was inviting my friends already. Mitsuki shouted back. Masaru followed her. What is your plan exactly, honey? Mitsuki's grin returned bigger. Honey, don't act like you didn't notice the parallels to us. My loudness and overall thinking I am great. You being the first person I had to deal with that wasn't bowing to me. Please, I bet those two will end up together just like us. Izuku smiled for the first time in hours as he entered his apartment, his cat Marlowe greeting him with some purrs. Izuku picked up Marlowe and walked towards his room. Laying down on his bed, he sighed in content as the bed felt nice and Marlowe's warmth making it better. Izuku heard the front door open and assumed it was either his father or mother, not checking because he knew they would be in there in a second to check on him. Hey son. Shouta Aizawa poked his head into Izuku's room. How was the first day? Without opening his eyes, Izuku replied. A crazy girl tried to fight me because I didn't care. Shouta let out a snort, remembering how frustrated Inko used to get with him back at school when they first met, and his lack of motivation drove her mad. Women are crazy, Izuku. I know that now. Izuku started rubbing Marlowe's neck. How was teaching? I might drop out some of the students. Shouta replied. They aren't taking it serious enough. At least some are taking it serious. Izuku said. Some do have great potential. Shouta nodded. Your mom will be home soon. She said she had a surprise. I'm going to have to stay awake, aren't I? Izuku asked. Most likely. Shouta nodded. Izuku groaned. Using my quirk today made me tired. Which half? Shouta asked his son, curious about the unique quirk. Both. My nose bled earlier. Did you clean it? Shouta didn't know why he bothered asking his son that when he could see the red liquid. Later, Izuku mumbled. That's fair. Shouta left Izuku alone to lay down as well. Izuku smiled in content again because of how cold and quiet his room was. Everything felt nice. Soon his mother came home. He heard the sounds of her talking through his open door, but it sounded too far away to be for him, so he ignored it. A minute later, his mom, he assumed, was tapping his foot. Aiza, sweetie, get up. In. Izuku complained. Aiza, get up. We are having dinner at my friend Mitsuki's place. Okay, just 1 minute. Izuku said. We have an hour. Try to dress nice. The Bakugos are good people. Inko left her son's room. Wait. Bakugos. Izuku sat up, feeling dread at thinking it was that angry girl. Izuku and his father shared many things. Their hairstyle of being unkempt, messy hair for starters. Their seemingly always being tired and looking like they just rolled out of bed being another big one. Both father and son seem unenthusiastic about most things if they don't see the point in them. And most importantly, a slight fear of Inko Aizawa, who always looked happy and the opposite of them in terms of energy. Izuku had exchanged his school attire for a pair of baggy black cargo pants and a loose dark green long-sleeved shirt. Shouta had a similar outfit, but in all black. Inko has a black skirt and a green blouse. I thought I asked you two to dress nicely, Inko said to her husband and son. This is my nicely, Shouta replied. I got my hair out of my face. Izuku pointed to his messily tied back hair. Inko had an exhausted look. She didn't know why she expected more from the two when this should be expected. She had tried to get Izuku to be not as much like his father, but that ship had sailed a while ago. Try to at least not groan at social interactions, you two, Inko said, with a response of two groans. You better be getting them out right now and not complaining about it. Izuku wanted to groan again. He knew he would inevitably groan, and it would be because of that girl Katsumi, no doubt. Hold on, Katsumi, damn it. Mitsuki cursed as she tried to put a flower in her daughter's hair that would match the dress she made her daughter wear. Get that damn thing away from me. Katsumi swatted the flower away. I don't want it. It will match your dress, Mitsuki said. I don't want this either, Katsumi snapped. I am not going to have my daughter look like a little demon while guests are here. Mitsuki was getting frustrated with her daughter. But yet you walk around looking like an old hag? Katsumi asked. A tick mark formed on Mitsuki's forehead. What did you call me, you little twit? An old hag. You old hag. Little twit. Old hag. Little twit. Old hag. Little twit. Old hag. Masaru continued to sip his drink like this was a normal situation, which it was for this household. Izuku and Shouta both felt dread as they heard the sounds of two people shouting at each other, and Inko chuckled at the memories of her friend Mitsuki being like that. Inko knocked on the door, and the shouting stopped. A man opened the door. Hello, you must be the Aizawas. I'm Masaru. I'm Inko Aizawa. Inko flashed a big smile. Shouta. Aizawa shook Masaru's hand. This one is Izuku. Izuku made a weak smile, feeling really tired. Masaru nodded as he studied the boy that actually got a weird reaction out of his daughter earlier, noticing how he had many similarities to his father, including his tired eyes, even if the boy's eyes seemed more alive as well as tired. Come on in. Masaru guided the Aizawas to the living room, where Katsumi was stewing with a flower in her hair and Mitsuki was looking triumphant. Katsumi looked at the boy who had shrugged her off more than once that day, slightly irritated that even with her outfit that she wouldn't dare admit out loud that she liked and looked as good as hell in, he seemed to not notice her again, instead sitting next to his father that he looked like a smaller version of and looked like he was trying to sleep or daydream. Mitsuki saw the look her daughter made and smirked, knowing exactly what was going through her daughter's head. Hi Inko, how have you been lately, girl? I see you are still looking as fine as ever. Inko smiled. I have been great. Dealing with these two apparently is great exercise. Inko pat her husband's knee. This one has a more than enough for that. Mitsuki patted Katsumi's head, who looked like the action irritated her to her core, but didn't react to it, especially after hearing how upon meeting Izuku here got in a fight with him. Inko snapped to Izuku. You got in a fight on your first day? Izuku fought his groan and shook his head. It was barely a fight. Shouta nodded. He didn't throw any punches. Inko looked at her husband with a little annoyance. You knew? Shouta realized his mistake. From what I heard, it wasn't that bad. It was great, Mitsuki said. She finally had someone kick her off of her high horse. Katsumi gave her mother a dirty look. Izuku felt like he should have faked getting sick and stayed home. All I did was hold her in the air with my telekinetic energy until she calmed down. Mitsuki grinned and looked at her daughter. You can get calm? Katsumi wanted to start shouting, but knew it would make things worse. Why did you two fight? Inko had asked her son to be friends with her old friend's daughter, not end up in a fight with her. I wanted to see his quirk in action. Katsumi lied. Izuku nodded to agree with the lie. Mitsuki knew it was bullshit, and Inko doubted it as well. Dinner is done, Masaru announced. After a dinner filled with Inko and Mitsuki laughing over fine memories of their time together at UA, and a few jokes from Mitsuki about Shouta, who was in their classes with them, the four adults were enjoying tea. Izuku had returned to the couch in the living room, and tried to silently doze off, and Katsumi sat across from him, messing with the flower she took from her hair. Katsumi gave Izuku a dirty look. "I'm not apologizing. I'm not surprised." Izuku didn't open his eyes. "What is that supposed to mean?" Katsumi growled, not liking Izuku's tone. "You seem too high and mighty in your own mind, so you think you can do nothing wrong," Izuku explained. Katsumi glared at the boy. "What makes you think that your homeless-looking self can just think what other people are and act like an ass?" Izuku looked at her. "I can guess from today that because of your quirk, everyone immediately started praising you just because of how strong your quirk is. It went to your head, and you became arrogant and believed that you are God's gift to the world. And apparently, I am the first person here who actually doesn't bow down to you, so you are throwing a temper tantrum about it. Should we actually stop them?" Masaru said as the four adults listened. Mitsuki smacked her husband's arm. "Hell no. This might do Katsumi some good." Katsumi glared harder at Izuku. "How is that any different from you? Acting all tough because you have a quirk that can erase other quirks just by looking at someone. The difference is I understand my quirk is a tool and not some holy thing to be worshipped like you believe. My erasing cancels out my telekinetic powers as well as everyone else's quirks, so all I am doing is leveling the playing field. So then fight me without your quirk," Katsumi said. "You act all tough because of your quirk also. So let's fight without powers so you can put your damn money where your mouth is." "We should really stop this now," Inko said before her husband put his arm on her shoulder. "This could be a good lesson for them both. Izuku hasn't had an actual challenge, so he has also let things go to his head, but he doesn't acknowledge that. From what I can tell, little Bakugo will be more than enough to knock some sense into him, and vice versa," Shouta said. Izuku stood up. "Fine then." Katsumi was surprised that he agreed this time around so easily. Jumping up, she had a sadistic grin. "Oh, I can't wait to beat your ass." Katsumi ran into the dining room where the adults were all waiting for the kids to show up. "Mom, can me and Aizawa go outside?" "Don't do anything too stupid." Mitsuki waved off her daughter. Katsumi, grinning, rushed back through the apartment to grab Izuku and drag him outside. Mitsuki and the other adults went to the balcony to watch the small field behind their apartment. "Shouldn't one of us go down there to stop them if they go too far?" Inko knew her son wasn't reckless, but she still was a worrying mother. Sumi might be the biggest hothead, but she wouldn't let that happen. "I am betting on my daughter." "Sorry, Inko, but physically your son doesn't seem to have much muscle or energy." "Appearance can always be misleading." Shouta yawned. "All right, dumbass. Here are the rules," Katsumi said as she stood a few meters away from Izuku in the small field. "No private parts, so I won't hear you cry as much as I want to. Don't mess with my hair. First person to get the other to give up or put them in a position of no escape without our quirks being used at all wins. Quirks automatically disqualify you." "Is that all?" Izuku asked as he watched her stretch, not bothering to himself, instead standing there with his hands loosely in his pockets. "Yes. Are you ready?" "Do I not look ready?" Izuku asked. "No, you look like a bitch," Katsumi taunted. Izuku decided to test trying to mess with her. "You know, if you actually calmed down and didn't swear as much, I would consider you pretty." Katsumi's face turned red. "Start," she blurted so she can kick his ass. Katsumi went to punch his side, and Izuku finally removed his hands from his pockets, catching her fist and spinning her around him, and he hit her side. Katsumi ripped her hand out of his grip, using the other hand to grab his arm and pull him towards her, slamming her head into his. Going past her daze, she threw a punch and heard a crack as she hit his nose. Izuku, not expecting to even draw blood, had to throw out his previous plan and improvise. Dropping low, he swept Katsumi's legs, but instead of letting her fall, he quickly grabbed her arms and yanked her back up to do exactly what she did to him, slamming his head into hers, cracking her nose like she had done to him. "Fuck!" Katsumi cursed. Gripping his arms, she elbowed his side and tried to twist his arm behind him, but Izuku rolled with it and actually flipped to twist and pin her arms to her chest with his, standing behind her now. "That was unexpected," Izuku commented. "I guess this is too." Katsumi swung her head back and felt it slam into his nose, making the broken thing worse. Izuku didn't let his grip on her release and used his one free arm to smack her over the head. Growling, Katsumi went limp for a second, using the surprise from Izuku to slip out of his grip. Spinning around, she clocked Izuku and pushed him to the ground, pinning him down. You lose. Katsumi grinned. Izuku didn't respond, instead raising his one leg not covered and kneed Katsumi in her rear, making her lose balance just enough for Izuku to find the strength to get up and flip their positions, making sure to have more coverage than she did to not allow escape. I win, Izuku said. Katsumi didn't say anything, too embarrassed about the fact that hitting his knee against her ass being the turnover he needed. Izuku stood up, touching his broken nose, before he offered a hand to Katsumi, who ignored it to get up on her own. Still a loser, Katsumi muttered. Izuku didn't say anything in response, opting to instead take notice of their parents that were watching. Didn't know your son was athletic, Mitsuki said. Didn't know your daughter isn't above drawing blood in a fight, Inko replied. She says it isn't a good fight until there is blood. Izuku looked to the explosive girl. Are you alright? Fuck off, I don't want to hear you gloat. Katsumi wasn't paying attention to what he said. I don't gloat, it wastes time, Izuku replied. Izuku picked up the flower that fell from Katsumi's hair. You dropped this. Katsumi glared at the flower in his hand, snatching it from him. You got blood on it, moron. Sorry, you broke my nose. Izuku began to walk back inside. You broke mine, so don't bitch. Katsumi followed. Once inside, both kids were grabbed by their specific, overbearing, worried parent, Izuku's being Inko and Katsumi's being Masaru. Honey, your nose is broken. Inko used a napkin to wipe the blood, Izuku looking annoyed. I am aware. Izuku deadpanned. Does it hurt bad? Masaru was cleaning the blood from Katsumi's face. Not as much as his, Katsumi answered. Got him good, sweetie. Mitsuki gave a thumbs up to her daughter. Izuku tried to move his mother's hand away. I'm fine. I can fix it later. Inko, as much as she was a caring mother, whacked her son over the head. I am not letting you test your telekinesis to fix your nose. Telekinetic energy. Izuku corrected her. You might make it worse, Inko said. Or make it better. Shouta, tell him no. Inko looked at her husband. Shouta agreed that it would be great practice in seeing if Izuku's telekinetic energy can be used to patch himself up momentarily. However, he has been with Inko long enough to know that disagreeing with her on this was a death sentence. Izuku, let this get patched up by your mother. Izuku sighed. Fine. The Aizawas had just left. Closing the door after them, Mitsuki turned to find her daughter. So how was your first date? Mitsuki asked the girl who was trying to get rid of the dress. What? Katsumi shouted at her mother. That was not a date. Mitsuki smirked. You couldn't take your eyes off of him for half of the night. I was barely looking at him. You were trying to have a staring contest with his muscles once you learned he had them, Mitsuki said. Why are you even looking at a 12-year-old, you old hag? Katsumi yelled. This isn't about me, this is about you. Don't get jealous. I'm not jealous. So you think you have a better chance than me? Yeah, because I am not an old hag. Why would he want a little twit? Why would he want an old hag? Little twit. Old hag. Little twit. Old hag. Little twit. Old hag. Never seen you get so flustered over a boy. Oh Lord, you have such a huge crush. Mitsuki laughed. Fuck off. Izuku, hold still. Inko said. I don't like it. Izuku didn't like the feeling of the rubbing alcohol being applied to his nose. I don't understand how you barely want to move unless you have to actually stay still. I don't like the alcohol. It burns. I don't care if you don't like it. It is supposed to burn to get any bacteria out. I know. Doesn't mean I have to like it. Izuku, I hope you took the lesson from that spar. Shouta said from the hallway. I know. Sorry I let my head swell up. I understand how it can feel. When I started out using my quirk to erase other people's quirks, it made me feel superior because I knocked them down a peg to a level that I had a good grasp of. However, you must remember that just because someone can climb higher doesn't mean they won't study each level as they go. Izuku nodded. I need to get stronger physically. I have good room to grow, and if I use my erasing half I can get tired quicker. I need to have even more stamina to spare. Glad to see you were thinking it through. Wish my class had your foresight. Shouta quietly walked down the hallway to leave, the way he and his son normally leave a conversation. It was quiet for a second until Inko looked her son in the eye. So do you like your new friend? I don't have any friends. Izuku said. He truthfully didn't because kids were for some reason disliking of him because of his erasing half of his quirk. Bakugo seems like a friend. Bakugo broke my nose. Izuku replied. You then broke hers, and then you both quietly sat by each other while we cleaned your blood. That doesn't make us friends, Izuku said. It makes you something. Katsumi carefully put the flower that was splattered with her and Izuku's blood into a vase, for some reason wanting to keep it. The next morning, Izuku decided to walk to school. The sky was dark because a storm was close to Mizudafu. Perfect weather for Izuku because that meant no one else was outside. Hey Aizawa. Izuku relaxed too soon as he heard Katsumi call out to him. Izuku slowed his walking speed to let her catch up. Hello Bakugo. Your form sucks, Katsumi said as she copied Izuku's pace. It was enough to help me win, Izuku said. Yeah, well, it sucked. You got lucky. You were coming over after school, so I can have someone else here with potential not suck. Thanks for the compliment. Wasn't a compliment. You still suck. I won. Following common sense, that means you suck more than me. Katsumi looked at him annoyed. I can kick your ass right here. I will just knee yours again and win. Izuku responded, ending it with a yawn. Katsumi hid her blush. Quit yawning, loser. My quirk takes stamina. I am always tired. Or weak. I guess that is something else to work on. It was an odd sight for the other students at Aldera Junior High when Izuku Aizawa and Katsumi Bakugo walked side by side into the school after being at each other's throats the day before. So your erasing half comes from your dad, I guess? Katsumi asked as she ignored the odd looks she got for not coming into school pissed off as usual. Yes, although his is dependent on eye contact with the person or just looking at them. Yours isn't. No, I think because of my mom's telekinetic energy, I can just feel quirks around me and hold one or two mentally. I want to work on it more to make it a bigger amount. While my parents had okay quirks, but fused together on me, I can make my sweat, which has nitroglycerin and stuff in it, make explosions. So that's why you smell like caramel, Izuku said. Katsumi's cheeks got a slightly pink tint. Yes. Katsumi's face turned redder when she remembered Izuku saying he liked caramel the day before. Izuku stopped talking, taking a yawn as they entered their class. How much sleep do you get? Katsumi didn't understand how he was always looking tired and yawning. I get enough. I am always like this. Izuku slumped into his seat, putting his head down. Katsumi didn't say anything else to him, just sitting down in the desk beside him. She noticed a few students looking at her. What the fuck are you fuckers looking at? 1 year later. Izuku sighed in content, the couch in his apartment feeling like heaven at that moment. The temperature of the apartment was just right, and the pillow over his head was blocking light from getting in his eyes. It was a perfect situation for a Saturday morning, but sadly it was about to end. A key turning at the front door made Izuku think his parents came back from their romantic weekend way earlier than expected, but then he heard the world's loudest voice. "What's up, Lil Zawa?" shouted his godfather and father's best friend, Hisashi Yamada, also known as the pro hero present Mike. Izuku made a sighing sound to let his godfather know where he was, hidden underneath an assortment of couch cushions and pillows. That's not an excited way to greet your favorite aunt and uncle. His godmother, Namiri Kiyama, the pro hero Midnight said. Put some happiness into it. That is my happiness, Izuku mumbled. Come on out, Aizu, Namiri said. Shouta and Inko wanted us to watch over you this weekend, so we thought it would be the perfect time to walk you around UA, seeing as how no one is there. It would be interesting, but you two might start making out, and I don't want to see that, Izuku replied. He loved his godparents, who have only started dating 2 years prior, but they, mostly his godmother, did tend to get a little handsy with the other godparent. You know, if you didn't have that attitude about affection, you could have a girl to do that stuff with, Midnight said, not having met Katsumi but hearing all about the weird chemistry her godson and this girl had. I'm 13, I don't need that kind of stuff yet. You said yet, so clearly you plan on it. Why not start early and go pro? Midnight grinned. I prefer being a novice. Come on, Lil Zoa, let's test out that theory you had. Gym Gamma at the school would be perfect for this. Hisashi was holding Izuku's large orange cat Marlowe and petting him. Okay. Izuku slid out of his makeshift hut and shuffled to find his green shoes. Gotta have more oomph to your step. Namuri tried to get Izuku moving. This is my oomph. No, it's not. I have seen your real oomph. Namuri replied. When I have a reason for the real oomph, I will use it. Izuku grumbled as he slid his shoes on, yawning as he did so. I still don't know how you and your father both spend half of your time laying around, and you are still tired as hell. Namuri said. My quirk has that effect. Izuku replied. You say that like you use it all the time. Namuri pointed out. The effect is constant. Izuku followed his godfather out the door. I seriously doubt that it's nothing but you two being lazy. Namuri laughed. Your father tried to sleep during half of his classes. Luckily, I was there to keep the good times rolling. Hisashi grinned. Katsumi ran out of her building, eager to start her Saturday training. Needing a sparring partner, she went to the one person who actually was a challenge, even if his lazy ass was a lazy ass. Before she even got to his building, she saw him, Izuku Aizawa, but with two adults she immediately recognized as pro heroes. Lazy ass, you know Present Mike and Midnight, Katsumi said as she got closer. Lazy ass? Oh, that's great. Midnight laughed. They're my godparents. Izuku answered her in his usual tired tone. You're telling me that for the past year you have never mentioned you had pro heroes as godparents? Katsumi was ticked off. You never mentioned your beautiful Auntie Kiyama? Midnight gasped. How rude. You must be the little firecracker I heard about. Hisashi grinned at Katsumi. I'm best friends with his dad. How did your lazy dad become best friends with Present Mike? Katsumi asked Izuku. He never mentioned that his dad is a pro hero either, did he? Namuri wanted to throw gasoline on the fire. Izuku felt some regret at sliding out of his couch hut. That lazy-looking guy? Katsumi didn't believe it at first, then she connected some dots. First, Izuku has the erasing quirks ability from his father. His father is a pro hero and best friends with Present Mike. Your dad is Eraserhead? Why didn't you ever say that? You never asked. Izuku shrugged. It was obvious anyways. Are you now calling me stupid? Katsumi jabbed him with a finger. I never said that. Izuku moved her finger away. I like you, Namuri said to Katsumi. Most girls your age don't have that fire you do. Most girls my age can't hold a candle to my fire, Katsumi replied. Oh, I really like you now. You're coming with us. Namuri grinned. What? Izuku sounded annoyed. Where? Katsumi didn't really want to hang out with Izuku's godparents for a lunch thing, even if they were pro heroes. We were taking Lil Zawa to UA so he can see the place and practice a theory of his there at a gym. Sold. I'm in. Katsumi grinned. Perfect. Namuri clapped her hands. This place is fucking huge, Katsumi said as she looked around the giant empty building. That was just one big area, known as Gym Gamma. Yeah, this place is neat. Hisashi dropped his duffel bag. It gets better when our buddy Cementas is here, but it's the weekend, so he is out. We can try it here, Izuku muttered, standing off to one side. Let's rock, Hisashi grinned. Try what? Katsumi asked. Oh, he wants to see if he can use his telekinetic energy to replicate Hisashi's quirk. Midnight answered. I can train you personally while they do that. Hell yeah, Katsumi grinned. Anything you are experimenting with? What is your quirk exactly? Namuri asked. I can create explosions using my sweat because my body makes a mixture of chemicals. Katsumi then showed off her explosions. In just your hands? Namuri asked. Katsumi looked confused for a second, not once thinking about explosions anywhere but her hands. I never tried anywhere else. Namuri smiled. Luckily you got me, darling. Now is the sweat spontaneous, or can you mentally control the explosions going off? I just feel like it, and they happen. So you are hardwired to making the chemicals that make your explosions. That opens possibilities, but before I go down that path, let's see if you can make explosions from your feet. My feet? Katsumi looked at her sneakers. Yep, take off anything you don't want to destroy. All right, Lil Zawa. So how are you going to watch it happen exactly? I don't have an X-ray machine for you. Hizashi looked at his godson. It might feel weird, but I can try to use my telekinetic energy to put what can he explained as a mental hand on your throat. I can just feel it as it happens. And since my quirk's sensory component of the erasing half had improved, I can actually sense more of your quirk. You can feel my quirk regardless? Hizashi has heard Shouta mention before that Izuku has an ability in his quirk where he can actually just feel quirks being around him. Yes, it sounds weird, but I can feel quirks around me, like a buzzing from each one that gets stronger when I am closer. Izuku didn't know how to properly explain his sensory ability. It was still developing. That would be good for stealth operations, being able to just feel people being around. Hizashi then clapped his hands together. All right, I'm going to shout. Try to take your notes. Hizashi then let out a loud scream that shook the building. Not so loud. Namiri scolded her partner from afar. Lazy ass wants to replicate that? Katsumi would hate if the normally quiet boy would start screaming. Not exactly, just enough to produce a shockwave attack. Izuku said he wanted to have an attack to copy from so he doesn't fire in the dark and set everything on fire. His telekinesis can make fires? Katsumi asked. Nope, or yes. The kid wasn't clear on the potential of his telekinesis. He said it wasn't just moving objects around. He got annoyed when I said that. Katsumi added. Now to blow up my feet. Katsumi focused on creating the same process she does for her palm explosions, but for the soles of her feet. Feeling something, Katsumi wanted to jump in happiness at the idea of feet explosions, but the feet explosions did happen and made her get flipped into the air, landing on her back. Izuku saw the feat of growth by Katsumi and felt like saying nice job to her, but knowing the girl, she will think he was mocking her for landing on her ass. So do you think you can try from the one time watching? Hizashi asked. I think. I got a good feel of the energy. Izuku nodded. Are you going to yell also? For now, I guess I will have to. I need a template to follow with the telekinetic energy I have. And if that starts off with yelling, I guess I have to. Izuku began to replicate how Hizashi's quirk worked by using his telekinetic energy to build in his throat. Yell something epic for your first yell. Hizashi said. Mine was Fergalicious. Izuku ignored his godfather and shouted a simple sound that felt like it would work. Fuss. A burst of barely visible energy shot out of Izuku's mouth and blew in front of him, like an air cannon. Not much, but hey, first try. Hizashi yelled. It doesn't help that we had nothing over there set up for us to see the effects. Well dang, didn't think of that. Hizashi snapped his fingers. I did as I used the ability. Izuku rubbed his throat. Does it strain at all? Hizashi asked. Only a little. I'm still not going to use it as much. Not until I can get it to go smoother. That is wise. Otherwise you might lose the 7,000 groans you make a day. Katsumi said as she and Namiri got closer. Don't you have an inanimate objects to yell at to die? Izuku asked. Katsumi shook her head. Not at the moment. Either way, go away. Izuku said as he sat down. You're too close, and it bugs me. I'm like 10 meters away from you, jackass. Katsumi yelled. And yet it sounds like you're right next to me. Izuku closed his eyes and attempted to meditate, to test his sensory skills. Oh, you'll know when I am next to you. Katsumi said as she turned to Midnight. Let's test more stuff for me to kick his ass with. Namiri smiled. Let's just work on getting your explosions mastered with your feet. Izuku enjoyed how quiet it got around him, making a prayer of thanks that his godfather actually was quiet for once, because Hizashi knew how important his sensory skills could be if mastered. Izuku took a breath and tried to stretch his range, which was just 5 meters was feeling more like 10. Uncle Hizashi? What's cracking, Lil Zawa? Hizashi looked back to his nephew, having spent the last couple of minutes looking at Namiri. Can you keeping walking away from me until I say stop? Izuku still had his eyes closed. Sure thing, bud. Hizashi started making slow steps away from Izuku. I stopped feeling you. Izuku said. Can you take a step closer? Got it, Hizashi said as he walked back a step. That's how far I can track a single person. Izuku said as he opened his eyes, seeing Hizashi a good 25 meters away. This isn't bad for a start. Hizashi said. With this you can definitely follow a single person on a tracking mission. Izuku shook his head. That's when there is little opposition and only you around. More quirks around me will probably lower my distance or make things harder to read. Still a good start. You could practice it during classes at school. Hisashi offered. I planned on it. I need to improve it more because this could be one of my better tools. Locating someone in a building on lockdown or lost in a disaster is perfect for this, and I can't waste it. Well, you know your favorite aunt and uncle will definitely help you with that. Even if Namuri was stolen by that girl. Hisashi chuckled. 2 months later. Izuku scowled as his attempt at the shout failed again. It seemed like he could do it at first, but now it was impossible. Are you still struggling? Katsumi asked as she threw another explosive kick at the board she set up. I know how to do it. I watched how Uncle Hisashi did it. I don't know why I can't just do it. Izuku kept his scowl. Maybe it's that your throat is different from present mix. Katsumi offered. His quirk makes his like that. Just go back around and do it more like you. I don't know. Izuku took the info and nodded. That's going to take a while to get correct. I can't just practice on myself without concern. Because of your telekinesis. Katsumi nodded. Because of my telekinetic energy. Izuku corrected. That's what I said. Katsumi shot Izuku a look. Telekinesis is simply moving objects with my mind. I have telekinetic energy. Izuku explained. What's the fucking difference? Katsumi asked. Telekinetic energy can be used for more than just moving objects around, which is what telekinesis is. I can create platforms to walk on or stick objects together or dash. Shout and have a burst of the stuff go around you. Got it, Katsumi said. Wait, does this mean you can fly? No. Izuku answered immediately. What? Did you try and fall? Katsumi asked teasingly. I don't like heights. Izuku answered bluntly. Katsumi decided to change the topic. So you can make things stick to each other? Do you have to be right next to it for that to happen, or can you just think it? It's more like picturing them stuck together and using energy to keep them together. So you can climb walls if you wanted? Possibly. Do it. No. Pussy. You're not going to trick me like that. Not trying to trick you, just calling you a pussy. I don't call you names. Because you're a pussy. For months later. Katsumi turned to the tapping on her shoulder, shooting a glare as she really didn't want to be bothered that day. Izuku was sick from school and left her with a bunch of losers. What? Katsumi asked the girl. She knew her face, but not her name. Katsumi remembered her as some random girl that was in chemistry with her and Izuku. Sorry to bother you, Bakugo, but do you know where Aizawa is? Lazy ass is sick. Katsumi answered. Why do you care? The girl looked nervous. I just wanted to I gotta go. Before the girl could leave, Katsumi blocked her path. Why were you asking? The explosive girl asked again. I'm not going to beat you up, so stop being a pansy. I just wanted to see if you wanted to go to a movie. The girl avoided eye contact with Katsumi. Katsumi felt an emotion she didn't recognize, but decided to play it off. Like he would willingly stay awake for a whole movie. That was nothing to be afraid of me for. I'm scary for other reasons. It's just you seem like you have I really have to leave now. The girl managed to slip past Katsumi. I seem like I have what? Katsumi repeated the question to herself. 6 months later. You know, this is the first time I have ever seen you do your hair. Mitsuki remarked as she watched her daughter struggle with the brush. She knew full well why Katsumi was doing her hair, but wouldn't say it to her daughter, letting her have this one time. Izuku's parents were out of town again, and Mitsuki had offered to feed him if he was too lazy to make his own food. He accepted the offer and was coming to their place soon. She had only said it to Masaru, but purposely let Katsumi be in earshot to see what she would do. I just want to do my fucking hair for once, shut up. Katsumi growled. Are you finally getting to the age where you would rather look pretty than like a gremlin? Mitsuki grinned. At what age did you decide to become an old hag? Katsumi asked. Well, rude. And I was going to offer help. Mitsuki began to walk away. Good, I don't want help. Later, while looking in the mirror, she realized she should have asked for help. Katsumi's hair was a complete mess. The explosive girl knew she would regret it, but said the words. Mom, can you help me do my hair? Mitsuki clapped from somewhere in the apartment. Finally, my daughter wants to be pretty. Katsumi already regretted her words. Izuku knocked on the door to the Bakugo's apartment and got met with a sight he didn't think was possible. Katsumi Bakugo, with her hair smoothed out in a bun and with a little bit of makeup on. Izuku couldn't help but notice how much her crimson eyes stood out, like flawless rubies. "Hey, lazy ass." Katsumi greeted the boy, silently grinning at the fact that he had a stupid look in his eyes. "Hey, Katsumi." Izuku regained his normality. "Your mom invited me over for dinner." "Yeah, I did." Mitsuki grinned. "Figured that skin and bones Shouta didn't leave you a proper meal, and Inko could use the break from leaving you meals as well." "Thank you." Izuku nodded. "We have spicy curry tonight. Hope you like it hot, because this stuff is really hot." That night the Bakugos learned that Izuku does not like spicy food, but he still ate it because it was a nice offer and he didn't feel like having Katsumi call him a bitch or pussy again. 1 month later, Izuku groaned as the concoction in front of him popped, splattering the hot mess on his face. Inko snorted at the irritated look Izuku made while he stood staring at the pot. "Honey, do you want help?" "I will mess it up on my own," Izuku stated, annoyed he couldn't make simple curry. "Here, honey, take this." Inko handed Izuku a towel for his face. "I can guide, so it really is just you making it." "Thank you, Mom." Izuku smiled. "I still don't see why you had to cook her a gift for her birthday," Inko said. "That way she will stop pestering me for a little bit," Izuku said flatly. Inko didn't add anything, feeling like there was more to it than that. "About time you showed up, lazy ass," Katsumi said as he and Inko entered the Bakugo's home. "Sorry I was messing up," Izuku stated as he carried the bowl to the kitchen. "What's that?" "Afraid of my mom's cooking again." Katsumi followed him, not aware of Inko saying hi or her mom snickering at that. "No, I wasn't even afraid last time. I just don't like spicy food." "Because you're a wuss." "What is it then?" Izuku took the lid off of the bowl so she would stop asking the same question over and over again. "It's spicy curry." Katsumi gasped as she saw her favorite meal. "Curry. Spicy curry," Izuku repeated. "I used those peppers you mentioned before and added a few other things that you had said were amazing as hell." Katsumi looked at the bowl again, then to Izuku's face, the tired-looking boy having his usual facial expression, but she noticed a few flecks of curry on his face, as well as his sleeves. Obviously, he struggled with the curry. "You didn't have to make me curry." Katsumi felt a blush show up. "Happy birthday." Izuku ignored her statement. "Why do you look upset?" Mitsuki asked her daughter later that night. Katsumi didn't answer immediately, still not letting go of the fact that the lazy-ass guy she know made something with actual effort. The curry was actually good too. "I'm fine," Katsumi grumbled. "Okay, liar," Mitsuki said. "I'm not lying," Katsumi yelled. Mitsuki rolled her eyes. "Sweetie, you are bad at hiding emotions." "Well, you're bad at hiding being an old hag." Katsumi pointed a finger at her mother. "First off, that is rude. Don't take out your confusion over your boyfriend on me," Mitsuki responded. "I'll be rude all I wait." Katsumi flipped off her mom. "So you aren't denying he is your boyfriend?" Mitsuki asked. "Aizawa is not my boyfriend," Katsumi snapped. "I never said Izuku. He wasn't the only boy here at your party." Mitsuki grinned. "Shut up." Katsumi put her face into her pillow. "I'm just teasing. Pretty sure he likes girls who don't call him a dumbass every hour anyways." Mitsuki closed the door as a pillow got launched at it. 3 months later. Izuku did not want to get out of his hiding spot, afraid of all of the social interactions that people were bound to drop on him. It was the one day a year that no matter how hard he tried, people will find him and they would another him with affection. Izuku wasn't ungrateful of the affection, it was just too loud. The fateful day was his birthday, his 15th to be exact. "Izuku Aizawa, get out here now," Inko said loud enough for their entire home to hear. "Guests will be here in a few hours, so get ready." Inko got silence in return as a response before she shot her husband a look. "He gets this from you." Shouta continued, eating his breakfast. "Anyone who has had to deal with me can tell you it is easier to get me before I get the chance to hide." Shouta handed Marlo a piece of bacon. "We can just ask Marlo to find Izuku. It's his specialty." Inko sighed, before petting the cat. "Marlo, go find your lazy owner." Marlo purred before sniffing the air and then walking to the guest room. Inko, following as Marlo, tried to climb higher to get in the closet's upper shelves. Inko used her telekinesis to open the small doors. Izuku, get out of there. She wasn't going to ask how Izuku got up there anyways, seeing as how both of the men in her life could just do that. Izuku sighed as he pet his beloved cat. You're a traitor. Marlo meowed as Izuku scratched the feline's neck. Izuku slid off of the shelf and onto the floor, walking out of the guest room. I don't know why you still keep trying this every year, Inko said as Izuku walked up to the dining room with Marlo in his hands. One year I might get lucky. Izuku yawned. Shouta chuckled, remembering how he used to be that naive. Not while you are in this household, Inko said as she gave Izuku a wrapped present. Happy birthday, Aizu. Izuku opened it to see it was a jacket, similar in design to his father's hero suit, except it was a dark shade of green, and the sleeves were a bit loose and ended right at his elbows. It has multiple pockets, is fireproof, and I asked for padding since you like to sleep everywhere. Inko smiled. Thanks, Mom. Izuku loved his new jacket. Shouta put a box that was in the seat next to him on the table. It wasn't wrapped like his mother's gift. I couldn't decide between the two, so I am giving you a choice, son. Shouta opened the box for Izuku, and he could see the same capture tool that his father wore as a scarf in there. With this comes lessons on how to use it. Your style is different from mine, but you have enough flexibility to learn my style. Or we can make a new one just for you. Izuku nodded. I actually do have an idea for a new style. Shouta smiled. All right, then later let's start talking about it. Inko started to nudge Izuku towards his room. Go freshen up, and this time put on your actual nice clothes. Izuku groaned, but complied. What's cracking, Lil Zawa? Hisashi asked as he entered the home. Izuku raised his hand as a wave to his uncle, wanting to sit silently by his father watching an old Western film on the TV. Not even on your birthday do you have your oomph? Namuri asked as she sat next to Hisashi on the other couch in the living room. Izuku shook his head. My oomph is charging from last week. Namuri raised an eyebrow. What happened last week? Izuku and Bakugo decided to start upping their training together. Shouta answered for his son. Namuri smirked. She too much for you. The training is fine, it's just tiring. Izuku responded. So you're saying she is just down for you? Namuri asked. I can throw you and that couch out of the window without moving from my spot. Izuku said, mostly joking. But is it worth the effort? His aunt asked. No. Mom will yell. The boy answered. You Aizawas sure are afraid of Inko. Hisashi said. I didn't get to see what happened at UA that made Shouta here afraid of her, as well as like her, but it must have been interesting. None of the Aizawa men answered. However, Shouta had flashbacks to his time at UA, where Inko became more assertive about the fact that they both liked each other. Here's my gift to you, kiddo. Namuri handed Izuku a pair of goggles just like Aizawa's, except lime green. I figured you might like to hide your glowing eyes, just like your dad. Shouta looked at the goggles. Is that the pair you took from my desk? Namuri nodded. Yep, I just repainted them. Shouta only gave Namuri a look, deciding that he didn't really use that exact pair anyways. Oh, presents are now? Hisashi asked as he left to grab his. Give me 1 second. I'm surprised your little friend isn't here, Namuri said to her godson. I'm surprised you didn't bring her, Izuku said back. Ever since meeting her 5 months ago, Namuri basically adopted Katsumi and made her a personal student. Oh, so you wanted her here? Namuri gained a smile. That wasn't said. Izuku decided to try and fall asleep. Here it is, Lil Zawa. Hisashi made his return known, holding a piece of text similar to his own neck speakers. I figured you would like the boost to your shout, since it isn't gaining much ground. This bad boy should amplify your energy shouts. Do you dig it? Izuku took the speaker and nodded. I like it. He asked if you digged it. Shouta added, wanting to mess with his son for a second. Izuku sighed. I dig it. Hisashi clapped his hands. That's what's up. Hisashi. Inko snapped as she came in from the kitchen. I told you about yelling. Hisashi sat down quietly and had a sheepish look. Now you know, Shouta said to his friend. Soon his aunt and uncle, as well as some friends of his parents that knew of Izuku somewhat, had left, leaving just Izuku and his parents. So it wasn't that bad this year. Shouta said to his son. Hisashi only got loud twice. Last year was 8. Izuku nodded, running Marlowe's head. It was okay, I guess. So what were you thinking of for your own style? Shouta asked his son. The tired boy moved his arms. I can have 2 sets, on each forearm. My sensory ability can help me know what's happening around me, and my telekinetic powers can help guide the tools when I need the help. Shouta nodded. That style will definitely be hard to learn. I think you can do it. I think I can too. With this style, I can take down 2 at once or strike one opponent at 2 different areas. Or I can combine my telekinetic powers with it and use them to swing around. Think you can learn all of this before your test? What test? Izuku looked at his father. I recommended you to Yue. Here's your letter accepting the recommendation. Shouta pulled the letter from Yue out of his pocket. Your mother would have killed me if I didn't mention you at all when the principal asked us if we have seen anyone noteworthy. I assumed that Uncle Hisashi and Aunt Namuri also said something. Izuku opened his letter. They waited till after I did, and then they both wouldn't shut up. Shouta nodded. This year's recommendation exams are different. They actually have 2 more slots to get in through recommendations. Why did they add 1 more for each hero class? Izuku yawned. Nizu said this year had more potential than previous years and wants more people to shine. Shouta shrugged. So I have to put in more effort, Izuku groaned. How much more effort? Probably more than what you would want to give. That doesn't clear it up. Izuku put his head against the table softly. I know. Shouta chuckled. Katsumi cursed as the stuff came out all wrong. Are you really having trouble still? Mitsuki looked in her kitchen amused. Shut up, Katsumi snapped. It's not that hard, do you want help? Mitsuki asked. Fuck no, Katsumi shouted before she cursed under her breath. Please help me. For starters, you have the oven set to the wrong temperature, and you are pulling them out too late. Mitsuki entered the kitchen to help her daughter. You know he probably would have not minded if you got him a pillow. The boy sleeps all of the time. I don't care. He cooked something I like, so I am returning the favor. Katsumi grabbed more ingredients. You don't need that much sugar. Mitsuki grabbed everything from her daughter. You can't trick him into thinking you're sweet. Fuck you. I am a gumdrop. So you were trying to make him think you're sweet? Mitsuki asked. No. Fuck off and help me. Katsumi threw a spoon at her mom. Not hard enough to actually hurt. It was now close to sunset. Izuku had fallen asleep with Marlowe on his chest, behind the couch in the living room. Inko and Shouta were both drinking tea at the table. It's odd that Katsumi didn't show up. She is his closest friend. Inko said. I'm willing to bet his only friend. Shouta commented before Inko smacked his arm. Aizu is delightful. He has tons of friends. You had to yell at him to stop hiding in a closet shelf and go to his own birthday party. Shouta sipped his tea. He only talks to a handful of students probably because he has to, but Bakugo is definitely his only friend. He is still pleasant. Inko stood firm on that. When he is actually comfortable around people, yes. A knock at the door interrupted them. Inko opening the door to see an irritated-looking Katsumi holding a case. Hello, Katsumi. Inko smiled. How are you today? Hello, Mrs. Aizawa. Is Izuku here? Katsumi asked. Asleep behind the couch. Inko pointed to the said couch. Katsumi was brought in. She set the case down on the coffee table before she walked around the couch and began to poke Izuku's nose. Hey. Katsumi began to repeat the word as she poked him. A groan from Izuku let her know he had woken up, opening his eyes a second later. Hi, lazy ass. Happy birthday. Katsumi waved to the boy below her, not questioning his sleeping on the floor behind a couch. Hey. Izuku yawned as he sat up, turning to face her. It's kinda late. I still have 5 more hours in this day to bug you. Katsumi grabbed the case and held it towards Izuku. Here you go. Izuku opened it and saw a tray of caramel. You made caramel? My mom helped me, but was annoying. Katsumi admitted. You made me my favorite food for my birthday, so I decided to make you your favorite treat. Izuku took a piece of the caramel and ate it. Loving the taste, Izuku smiled. Katsumi felt something seeing him smile at the caramel. So you like it or what? Izuku nodded. It's amazing. Katsumi blushed. She decided to leave before he noticed the blush. I need to get home, so see you later, lazy ass. Bye, Katsumi, Izuku said as he took another square of caramel. Katsumi realized that was the first time she ever saw him smile. Inko looked at Shouta and had a huge grin. Did you see that? I'm sitting right next to you, Shouta replied, before Inko rolled her eyes. That was adorable. Inko commented on what they watched. Shouta nodded while sipping his tea. For months later, Izuku grunted as he fell to the ground. Are you okay, dumbass? He heard the voice of Katsumi calling out from above him. Izuku picked himself up off the ground, noticing his bloody elbow. I'm good enough, Izuku shouted back as he began to re-wrap his forearms with the now familiar tools. Give me a second to get up there. Izuku and Katsumi were practicing their mobility with their quirks. Katsumi having more fluidity as she can now create explosions expertly from her palms and feet, being able to propel herself through the air, which she added to her fighting style. Izuku's way of travel was different. He could use his telekinetic energy to make the ends of his bandage like rope tools stick to walls and surfaces and swing that way, or use his own palms and feet to stick and climb. If he ever felt tired physically going through the air, he could also use his telekinetic energy to create a momentary platform to catch his breath on. Katsumi has tried to talk Izuku into trying to actually levitate himself and fly, but he still wouldn't budge on the issue, saying that the way he did it was fine and he doubted he could get the smoothness required of levitating down anyways. Izuku decided to just climb the wall now instead of overexerting his elbow, climbing it quickly to not have to be yelled at. Getting over the edge of the roof, he let out a breath, having tired himself out almost both mentally and physically that day training. Hey cool, you're not dead. Katsumi wiped the sweat from her forehead. Could have checked to see if I was alright. I slammed my elbow into the ground. I didn't hear you curse, so there was no bad pain. Plus you got up here. With no help. Izuku yawned, now lying in his back on the roof. Katsumi dropped next to him. Well, now you can act tough. Oh yes, because being tough is my main goal right now, not sharpening my other skills. Being tough increases those as a result. I think I already am tough if I can break the self-proclaimed badass's nose that counts. Izuku stated. You got lucky, Katsumi retorted. If I recall, I used an opportunity and need your ass. You are always going to gloat about that, aren't you? Katsumi felt her face heat up. I'm not gloating. I just like to refer you to it every time your head gets too big. Well, I broke your nose too for having your head up your own ass. Which I am glad you did because arrogance would have been my downfall. Taking a nap during a fight is going to be your downfall. I would not fall asleep in combat. If you can fall asleep during Uncle Hizashi's karaoke, then I think you can sleep through anything. I love your confidence in me. Izuku yawned. In your sleeping ability. Which isn't a good thing, lazy ass. Whatever, angry ass. Izuku had a little smile as he tried to doze off. Katsumi continued to look at the darkening sky while Izuku slept next to her. 3 months later. Izuku's breathing was so low it was hard to tell if he was still breathing. The only way anyone could tell he was awake or alive was the glowing lime green around his hands and eyes, as well as his hair floating slightly. Izuku could feel every person and quirk in a clear radius of 20 meters of him. Focusing on one person in particular, he could sharpen his sense on them and the immediate meter around them. Katsumi watched Izuku, waiting to see if he would overdo it like last time. All she had to see to stop him was even a drop of his blood. She didn't want to see him hospitalize himself again like last month, so she made him swear to only practicing when she or someone else was there to make sure he would be fine. Katsumi got a dirty look when she saw some blood leak out of his nose, but Izuku didn't stop. Katsumi shook his shoulder. Hey dumbass, I know you felt that. Izuku took a second to pull his energy back. Opening his eyes, he scowled. Not at Katsumi, but at his lack of progress. I'm still at the same distance. Katsumi smacked his arm. I don't care. You're not sending yourself to the hospital again. She didn't understand how he always tried to warn her of her limits, but on this one skill of his he always overdoes it. That's not how exercise works. You don't break an arm to make it stronger. Actually, bones repair themselves denser than before, so they do come back stronger. Izuku explained. I'm not letting you break your brain, dumbass. Katsumi glared at him. Izuku sighed. I'll be more careful next time. Good. If you don't, I am going to break your nose again. Katsumi threatened. Like every time, I will break yours right back. Izuku yawned and cleaned the blood from his nose. You can't touch me anymore. I'm too fast for your lazy ass. 2 months later, Izuku ducked underneath the explosion-powered kick, charging his telekinetic energy to his head like a glove as he tried to uppercut Katsumi. Katsumi used an explosion in her foot that was still on the ground to shoot herself into the air to avoid the hit, raising an arm to use the explosion from it to drop her right on top of Izuku. Izuku used his telekinetic energy to make a dome over himself to prevent Katsumi from getting a hit, feeling a drop of blood come from his nose as she cracked the dome. That counts as a hit. Katsumi hopped off of the dome, still in her fighting stance. We clearly stated physical contact makes it count. Izuku jumped backwards away from Katsumi. So no. You're bleeding. Katsumi pointed to his nose. You cracked my dome. That's not physical contact with me. Oh, I will give you physical contact. Katsumi got back to trying to land a hit on Izuku, who did the same in return. Namiri grinned as she ate her sandwich and watched the two kids spar. They have gotten so much improvement in these past couple of months. Hisashi commented. They have, but more interesting to me is how they still interact with each other. Namiri smiled. That is definitely interesting. Honestly, without Lil Bakugo, I doubt Lil Zawa would be as far as he is. Hisashi nodded. Oh, definitely. He would never admit it, though. They feed off of each other, not even competitively most of the time. Do you not hear Lil Bakugo trying to make everything a contest all the time? I do. She is just trying to coax him into putting more effort in. That's a hard task to do with any Aizawa. Hisashi laughed. Lord knows how she does it. My theory is blackmail, or she kept forcing Shouta to do things with her until it became normal for him, and he wouldn't like going without her. Namiri nodded to her own line of thinking. I think I remember him saying how she snapped at him during our first sports festival, and it made him afraid of her. Hisashi said. Maybe she asked him after that, and he was too afraid of saying no. We could ask Izu, he might know. Namiri said as she watched Izuku bounce off of the wall of the gym to get out of the corner Katsumi was trying to trap him in. Katsumi smirked as she watched Izuku land and stand a few meters away from her. Shouldn't you be tired by now, lazy ass? Shouldn't you be screaming by now, angry ass? Izuku asked flatly as he rushed in. Fuck off. Katsumi also rushed in. They both tried to get a punch in, and both hit each other at the same time, cracking each other's noses. The pair both reeled back in pain from the shared injuries. Izuku ignored his nose and looked at Katsumi's own. Are you alright? PSSH, yeah. How about you? I know you are weak sometimes, so that could last a while. Katsumi wasn't going to admit to Izuku that that strike from him had serious strength behind it. She misses the days where he was scrawny instead of built, although she wasn't complaining too much. Luckily, you only cracked it. Izuku rubbed his nose before using his telekinetic energy to adjust it back into place. Katsumi smirked. Luckily, were you expecting me to do worse? You create explosions in your palms at will. Izuku replied as he rolled his shoulders. So who hit who first? Katsumi asked. You hit me first. Izuku lied. They did it simultaneously, but he didn't want to argue about it. Ha, so I am better. Katsumi laughed, although she felt like he was lying. Good spar, little kitties. Namiri clapped. Now cool off before I make you two do more things. Izuku took that as a sign to drop to the floor and take a quick nap. Hey, Lil Zawa. Hisashi gently nudged the prone boy with his foot. What exactly happened when your parents met? Izuku groaned at the interruption of his nap. They first met when they ended up in general studies together their first year at UA. And, Namiri said, details. They didn't talk for the first 2 weeks of class. And, Namiri said again. Ask them. Izuku yawned. Namiri felt a tick mark grow on her head, but she wasn't really surprised with his response. You're horrible at conversating, you know that, right? Izuku didn't respond, actually falling asleep. I can kick him if you want. Katsumi offered. Nah, leave him. Namiri stopped the girl in her tracks. You can just beat him up during your spar later this afternoon. Katsumi grinned. You already know. It was now nighttime and both of the kids were by themselves at Izuku's apartment, his parents both staying late at their jobs. "So why is your dad at UA this late at night?" Katsumi asked from her position on one of the two couches. Izuku yawned. "Apparently UA has decided to become a dorm school next year. He is there to offer ideas and other stuff he will probably sleep through. So when do you do this recommended student shit?" Katsumi did feel jealous that out of the two of them he got a recommendation, but he did have a powerful quirk and has a lot of potential. "Next week. After another week I hear how I did, and you also do your entrance exam. Which I obviously will ace. Don't know why they put me with the other losers and not with your elite people. Dad, Uncle Hizashi, and Aunt Namuri all pushed my recommendation before you were questioned." Izuku sighed. "You can take my spot if you want it." "I would like a recommended spot, but I also want to break the record in the normal entrance exam to show everyone I am the boss. Don't just destroy everything. Dad told me they scored 2 categories and they don't mention the second one." "Why would he tell you?" "Because I'm not taking it," Izuku answered as Marlowe jumped on his couch for attention, which Izuku gladly gave. "Humph. What's the second category?" "During the practical half, they let you all fight robots and stuff obviously, but you also get points if you help other test takers. Especially when it happens." "When what happens?" Katsumi asked in confusion. "I'm not giving you all the answers. Got to do it yourself," Izuku said. "You're just being lazy." "Maybe that's why you call me lazy ass," Izuku responded. "Definitely why I call you a lazy ass." Katsumi smiled. It was now a week later, and Izuku stood in front of the building where his X for UA would begin. "Don't overdo your telekinetic powers," Shouta said as a last bit of info. "I know," Izuku nodded. "Your mother says good luck and to kick ass." "I will try." Bakugo was also at the apartment earlier. Wanted to say that if you failed, she would kick your ass. "I figured." Izuku nodded. "Also remember, half of recommended prospects have their heads up their own ass since they are kids of pro heroes or have powerful quirks." "You mean like me a few years ago?" Izuku asked. "Yep, so ignore them. Have I ever actually talked to people willingly? They come to me, and it sucks," Izuku said. "Anything else?" "For some reason, the loudest person possible always finds the Aizawas of their time and will attach themselves to us. It's a curse, you can't fight it. I tried, and he is my best friend and your godfather. What do you want me to do about it?" Izuku felt like it was impending doom. "Go with it. They learn to be a little quieter around you. I already have Katsumi as a loud-ass friend. Shouldn't that count?" Shouta shook his head sadly. "I'm sorry, but with you I feel like it will be different." "That's not fair." "Life's not fair." Shouta nodded. He nudged Izuku to the door of the building. "Take your test now. I know you will pass." Izuku had a small smile. "See you, Dad." Izuku entered the building, ready to take his test for UA. Izuku bit back his groan at how loud it was when he entered the first testing site. It was one of the larger rooms in the building and had multiple seats for the written portion of their test. As much as Izuku didn't want to put in extra effort, he knew he should focus hard during this test. He could, however, find his desk and sleep until they told them to begin. That would make people lower their expectations for sure. "Hi, I'm Inasa Yurashi." Someone yelled to the person next to Izuku, who Izuku ignored because he wanted to sleep. "Isn't it great to be here?" The girl Inasa was talking to looked startled by his loud enthusiasm. "I'm Momo Yaoyorozu. It is nice to be here," Momo said. Inasa had a smile. "I love meeting new people and learning about them. If it isn't too much, can I ask you what your quirk is?" "I can go first. My quirk is dash." "It would be smarter to wait till later to say your quirk." Izuku didn't know why he opened his mouth. He didn't raise his head from the desk, however. Inasa stopped and looked at the disheveled-looking boy. "Did you not sleep before coming here? Are you that excited?" Inasa asked with barely hidden enthusiasm, because he believed he might have found someone more passionate than him about this. Izuku replied with sarcasm. "Yep, I haven't slept for a week." Inasa's grin got bigger. "That is the type of excitement and passion I live for. I thought I was excited, barely getting an hour of sleep last night, and here you are with no sleep for the past week." Izuku wondered if this guy didn't understand sarcasm. or just was too excited at the idea of someone else being, as he called, passionate. Either way, Izuku should be smart and drop the conversation before his dad's words become true. I need to sleep now, though, so please quiet down. Izuku asked. Inasa nodded. Right? I can't get in the way of someone else's passion. Inasa took the seat right next to Izuku, having forgotten he was talking to the girl Yaoyorozu. Momo looked confused for a second before going back to her encyclopedia. Hello, prospects of the UA recommendation exams. The mouse-bear hybrid known as Principal Nizu greeted the students as he entered. Half of the students greeted him, including Inasa, who waved. Izuku had picked his head up, but was still half asleep. We have a few challenges here today to help us whittle down to the 6 of you that will become the 6 students who will carry over to UA. First, we have the written test, which we will stop once we have 60 of you with a passing score above our limit of 90%. Please do not rush, as just because people finish first doesn't mean they have the agreeable score. After that, the 60 people will be split into groups of 10 for the next challenge, which will be a teamed effort with 5 two-man teams made up of that 10. After that, we will have the final challenge, which won't be revealed until that moment. I also want to mention that as it is normally done every year where the recommended students are split down the middle to be separated into our 2 hero course classes this year. Much like how we changed it from 4 prospects to 6, we have changed another standard. The 6 people will not be shifted randomly. In fact, this year on we plan on delicately picking through the next year's students and making a class that will help each other grow. So all 6 of you might be in the same class, or one of you all by yourself. It is unknown right now. Nizu paused for a second. Good luck on your exams. Everyone began their exams, Izuku yawning before he opened it. Some people gave him looks thinking he was trying to say it was easy, before they, like the test of the people could see, he looked like he needed sleep. Everyone figured he would be the first one out. 2 hours of his life wasted later, Izuku was standing next to 9 other people, not bothering to try and learn anything about them. He wasn't being arrogant. He just knew that he could ask whoever gets partnered with him if he needs it. Hey, you're Aizawa, right? Izuku looked up to see a guy who easily was stronger physically than him. The guy had tan skin, shoulder-length spiky red hair, and black eyes. He couldn't guess what the guy's quirk was based on appearance, so it was probably an emitter-type quirk. Yeah. Izuku yawned. Why did I have to get partnered with the sleeping one? The guy groaned to himself. You're just lucky, Izuku said as he shifted his legs. All right, kiddos, gather round so I can give you the news, Hisashi said to the 10 kids. Izuku exhaled at the thought of his uncle being the proctor for his exam. He will actually have to put in more effort than he intended because Hisashi will know if he is half-assing. All right, kiddos, the goal is the 5 teams of you must eliminate each other and be the last time here in this section of our simulated city or find the box before the others. You don't just touch it, you have to open it. Hisashi held up a picture of a gold box that had UA written on the front. We will not condone excessive or unnecessary violence. You have to show restraint and such in hero work, so it should be expected here as well. In order to eliminate someone, you must hit this bad boy. Hisashi held up a black vest with 5 orange lights in a circle on the front and back. 5 times. Once your lights are out, you are out. It is not one person out, and the team is out. If you get eliminated but your teammate goes on to win, you get to ride their success. Everyone must wear this. The straps are adjustable, and I will show you kids to the 5 entry points into the section of town you are given. No one enters until I give the okay. Anyone enters early, I will disqualify you and you won't get to ride the coattails of your teammate if they win. Final note. Once again, first 2 with their hands in the box win. Everyone nodded to show their understanding. Izuku and his teammate got the blue-colored vests, Izuku's fitting him snugly. All right, kids, let's go. Hisashi began to lead them to their points of entry. Are you going to stand there with your eyes closed, or are you going to help me so we can pass? Izuku's teammate asked him. Izuku frowned, but didn't open his eyes. You don't even know what my quirk is, so maybe me standing here with my eyes closed is me preparing my quirk. His teammate scoffed. I feel like you were just trying to find an excuse to be lazy. Think whatever you want, Izuku replied. Assuming things beforehand can lead to your downfall. His teammate turned all the way to face Izuku. Want to talk shit? I'm not saying it against you. I'm just giving a warning. Izuku sighed. Opening his eyes, he could see the guy was looking mad. Look, calm down, or we will both fail. Do you really want to fail because you got pissy with a guy who looks like he needs a nap? Izuku's teammate continued to give him a dirty look for a second before he looked forward to the entrance. First chance I am getting, I am knocking your teeth in. Izuku has heard way worse threats from Katsumi. Granted, she never really meant them after the first few months, but still. Oh boy, can't wait. Hisashi sighed when he watched the interaction. Izuku doesn't leave good first impressions with some people. I think we should focus on finding the box. It's a 5-block area, and most buildings are 3 stories tall at most. Izuku finally spoke. Fuck that. All we got to do is eliminate the other 8. I can do that on my own. That is a dumb idea. What if the other teams could easily decide to sneak around, avoid us, and find the box? Izuku could use his sensing to find people nearby, but still chasing people for a fight when the better option is to find a gold box was a terrible idea. You're probably trying to avoid fighting because you can't. Once again, assuming things beforehand is unwise. Izuku replied. He thought about how he really didn't need this guy to win, so he probably could just let him go get himself eliminated. However, he shouldn't let an idiot run into a fire, even if the idiot was trying to do it willingly. How about we search for the box and fight anyone we see without question? Izuku offered. His teammate nodded. That works. Before we start, my quirk is that I can harden every hair on my body to a sharp point. I call it Quill, which happens to be my name. Name makes sense. I never gave my quirk a name. Izuku replied. Why? Quill asked, confused about it. Izuku shrugged. I have both of my parents' quirks side by side. Naming it seems irritating. Just use one word for both then. Telekinetic eraser then. Izuku decided. Telekinetic eraser? Quill looked even more confused. I have telekinetic energy, and I can also erase quirks for a while. Izuku yawned. I can't do both at the same time, however. Cancel out. How about this? You erase their quirks if they get close, however you do it. I can just mentally do it by looking at them or thinking about them. Okay, you erase their tricks and I slam their heads into the ground. Quill cracked his knuckles. You're excessively aggressive. Okay, I guess. Izuku would use his telekinetic energy to make sure no one got hurt too bad. Okay, everybody. Hisashi's voice came over the speakers. It's time to boogie. Izuku followed Quill into their section of the city, really wishing he was allowed to bring his tools, missing his arm wraps. However, the recommendation exams specified no outside tools as to test them at their base strength. Even his jacket was considered as a tool somehow since it was padded. He only had his default outfit of a loose, dark green, long-sleeved shirt, black slacks and boots he was given by Katsumi. Somehow the boots, despite having steel in the heel and toes, was not considered a tool like his jacket, which only had fireproof padding. Quill kicked down the door of the first building, not caring about stealth at all. Izuku wanted to groan, but this guy doesn't exactly like him, so he stifled it. Izuku heard a boom to the north. There are some people, Quill said, eager to fight. Wait 1 second. Izuku put his arm in front of the door Quill was about to kick down. Let me sense them so we can jump them swiftly. Quill was going to argue but didn't. How do you sense them? Just give me 1 second. Izuku took a breath, focusing his sensing capabilities to locate quirks in the nearby area. Instead of finding the team to the north, he felt a pair of quirks advancing towards them from the south, probably wanting to fight the team they were going after as well. I didn't find them, but another group will be going through that alley heading north. Izuku pointed to the alley. Quill grinned. Excellent. Tell me when I can jump out the window. Quill got closer to the window and activated his quirk. Red hair standing up like quills all over his body where he didn't have clothing. Izuku focused on the group again, noticing how they turned sharply away from the alley. They turned. Izuku then fell over as one of the two he was tracking had used their quirk to take down the wall. What's up? A silver-haired kid grinned as the wall fell apart under his strength quirk. He had an orange-colored vest on. A fellow telekinetic. A girl with pink hair stepped into the area and eyed Izuku. I felt your energy. Well, feel this. Quill jumped at her and attempted to level a punch to her, but the silver-haired boy intercepted. Hey, I want action too. The boy tried to attack Quill, but he blocked the attack. The the silver-haired boy cutting his fist on Quill's quills. Oh, not that action. The pink-haired girl looked at Izuku. Let's see who the better telekinetic is. Izuku swapped to his erasing power, focusing on her. No. The pink girl looked confused as she couldn't use her quirk anymore. Izuku took the chance and quickly struck her 2 times, the girl snapping out of her confusion and blocking the 3rd strike. Izuku easily dodged around her attacks, her combat skill being subpar, most likely to over-reliance on her quirk. Izuku deactivated the silver-haired boy's quirk as well, just for reassurance. Izuku got another step me in on the pink-haired girl before she finally got one on him, taking him down to 4 hits left. Izuku jumped back and swapped quickly to his telekinetic energy, creating a wall of lime green energy between the 2 teams. What the hell? Quill looked at Izuku. Izuku took a breath. Just wait, I was trying to catch my breath. So you pause, everyone. Yes, thank me later. Izuku stood as he normally did, slouched with his hands in his pockets. Thank you for what? Quill asked as he got his answer. The telekinetic energy wall moved, smacking the 2 enemy test takers against a wall, pinning them as it stayed there. You're both trapped and pinned, so surrender. Izuku gave a bored look to the 2 trapped kids. The silver-haired guy got an annoyed look. Heroes don't surrender. Idiots also don't surrender. Izuku added, you are clearly outclassed. Have 1 cut-up hand and 1 strike left before you both are out. I was trying to let you leave with dignity, but never mind, I guess. Izuku yawned and released the wall. Do whatever you want, Izuku said to Quill as he walked the opposite way. Quill grinned before quickly attacking both people, eliminating them both. He caught up to Izuku outside. You can actually fight, he remarked. Orange team is eliminated, Hisashi yelled into his mic to announce. Apparently, Izuku said as he looked ahead. There were approximately 20 buildings in their section of city, with an average of 3 or 4 floors each. The gold box was supposedly as big as Izuku's arm, which meant it could be hidden in many places. There was no time limit for this challenge. Each team had lives, and the city section was big enough that just searching would take a few hours. This was a test to see how people would act in a tense situation, where a main goal is in mind, but everything made the side goal more appealing, in just eliminating other test takers. For all Izuku knew, he could be overthinking the test, and the proctors were just making a challenge to watch them use their quirks and how they react to situations. However, if Izuku were to place the gold box, given he actually had motivation to do so, he would place it somewhere obvious but not too obvious. He needed to get to higher ground to take a guess. Can you climb? Izuku turned to Quill. What? Like walls? Yeah. Quill showed that the quills he had in his palm can give him leverage on a wall. Why? I might be able to figure out where the gold box is, but I have to climb somewhere high. Can you even climb? Quill asked. Izuku stuck his hands to the wall of the building using his telekinetic energy and began to scale the wall. I'll take that as a yes. Quill began to follow his teammate up the building. Once Izuku got to the 2, he looked around. This building was 3 stories tall, so the average for their area. The tallest building was 6 stories tall, being the only one at that level. Alright, so what is your plan of finding that box? Quill asked, having gained a little respect for Izuku seeing his fighting style. Give me 1 second to try and think, Izuku asked. It would be too blatantly obvious to put it in that one. Maybe the next 2 would be the best options, only 2 buildings being 5 stories tall. It would be 1 step down from a completely obvious place, but also again, Izuku might be overthinking it. What building would you think the gold box is in? Izuku asked without opening his eyes. Quill looked at the buildings around them. The tallest building here is probably an obvious place it wouldn't be placed, unless they wanted us to think that it would be too obvious and have us look everywhere else to waste time. Izuku sighed. Maybe they are trying to test whether we would go somewhere right in the open where we would be a target. We just eliminated a team without taking a single hit. Everyone else's targets. Quill walked to the edge of the building. I might not be correct, but hear me out. Biggest building. It's blatantly right there in the center of our area. It has the most spots to hide the thing, and if not, we will inevitably run into another team and we can take them out. Red team has been eliminated, Hisashi announced. Izuku nodded to Quill. If anyone is there, I can use my sensory ability to warn us. Is that thing just for people? Quill was about to ask why Izuku couldn't just locate the box with that ability. I can only focus on people or their quirks as my ability is right now. Izuku explained as he went to the edge of the building, not liking the height. Quill began stretch. Hopefully you are as athletic as you are tired. Quill ran and jumped to the building across from them, landing on the roof. Izuku, making sure not to look down, created a platform to walk across to Quill, who shrugged and began to go to the next edge closer to the central building, which was only 4 buildings away. How do you plan on entering? Quill looked at Izuku. I can create a platform for us, and we can just break a window and climb in. That works. Quill nodded as he made his thin red quills stand up all over his hands. Can you make certain sections of the quills stand up on their own? Izuku asked. Yep. Every hair on my body can become like my quills, extremely sharp and strong as steel. Quill spoke about his quirk with enthusiasm, clearly proud of his quirk. How does your telekinesis and erasing thing work? It's telekinetic energy, not telekinesis. Izuku corrected him. I can picture myself making the energy do things like my platforms. The erasing is like I can feel quirks around me, and I can picture myself holding it back from working. Looking at them makes it take less energy, but I don't need to be looking at someone if they are close enough. Izuku created another platform for both of them to walk across onto the final building top. Anyone who relies on their quirk too much is going to have problems with you, Quill stated. As long as they don't rely too much on quirks, people shouldn't suffer too bad. Izuku stopped at the edge, blocking Quill before he walked off the edge, expecting a platform. Give me 1 second. I don't want even a slight headache from my telekinetic energy. Quill nodded but made all of his hair stiffen on his arms, jumping at the central building and crashing into the side, his quills embedded into the side. I'll make an entrance. Quill released one of his arms, before smashing it into the window next to him, shattering it entirely with his strength. Shuffling over, he got into the opening and got rid of the glass, before he began to break it more from the inside, making something Izuku could easily duck to get into. I'm going up once you're ready. Izuku nodded, finding it odd how they were just at each other's throats, more just Quill, and now cooperating like a good team. Izuku felt ready and created a thinner platform to walk into the hole Quill made. Entering, he saw they had started in an office space floor, most likely what was an actual office of probably a manager. Quill had moved towards the stairs, actually using the drinking fountain that surprisingly had water. UA really overdoes making a fake city. I feel like this place is just missing people, Quill remarked. Izuku nodded. Makes us be prepared for our real environment. An explosion rocked the building. Wanna guess that it is one of the other teams. Quill had his real hair stand on edge, ready for a fight. Izuku used his senses to try and figure out where the team was. Found them. Actually, 3 of the 4 final people besides us are fighting. Quill was about to head down the stairs. Might as well join. Izuku stopped him. Wait, don't just dash. You find the box, I fight them. Only one of us has to find the box for us both to pass right. I have my fun, and you get to pass. Quill said. Izuku looked at the red head. Fine. Try not to get eliminated. Don't disrespect me like that. Quill went down the stairs. Izuku figured he could just start searching on the top floor for the box. Heading there, the sounds of combat were definitely gone, and it was quiet. The building was just a good temperature also, making Izuku think it was a perfect setting for a nap. He couldn't take one, of course, because he would probably fail, but the idea was so strong that he had to acknowledge it. The top floor was surprisingly empty compared to the other floors. One giant area, and all the walls were covered in full windows. Nothing of interest really grabbed Izuku's attention. Seeing it as a bust, he decided to see it for some reason. It was on the roof. Climbing back up the staircase, he found the door to be locked, finding it odd that this was the first locked door he had encountered. Using his telekinetic energy, Izuku blasted the lock off of the door, and it swung open. Gah! A girl screamed in shock as Izuku got to the roof. Izuku saw that she had red leathery wings, which, knowing UA recommendations, wasn't the only thing she had. She also had pale skin, long black hair, blue eyes, and a cut beneath her left eye. She had on a vest with green lights. She was also trying to open the box he was looking for. I'm tired and need a nap. Izuku said, "Can I ask you for that box by any chance?" The girl gave him a look of confusion. No. She began to fly up. Izuku sighed. "Please don't fly away, it will hurt more." The girl stopped in confusion again. Was this guy really trying to intimidate her? The guy who slept through half of the written exam and somehow got here was trying to threaten her? Who the hell do you think you are? Izuku looked below her to make sure she was still above the rooftop, not wanting to kill her when he canceled her quirk. "I know who I am." He canceled out her quirk, making her wings go limp and her fall on her rear on the rooftop. What the hell? She was getting more confused as she continued interacting with this guy. What was his quirk? He just blew a door wide open and made her fall from the sky, without removing his hands from his pockets. "Can I have the box?" Izuku asked again. He thought there was a chance that maybe she might be too spooked by his powers and give it to him. She stood back up and got into a fighting stance. "Hell no. Doesn't matter if you can make me lose the ability to fly. I will still kick your ass." Izuku couldn't help but be reminded of Katsumi for a second, even if Katsumi had way more charm and was definitely more attractive to Izuku. This girl was like a watered-down version of Katsumi personality-wise. Can't one person go without a need to fight? Izuku got into the stance he used without his bands. "Hey dumbass, we are all fighting for the same spot. Of course there is going to be a fight." The girl jumped at Izuku. Izuku saw holes in her form immediately and took advantage, going low and raising his foot to meet her chest. She grimaced, holding her chest. "Seriously, can I just have the box?" Izuku asked again. The girl scowled and went for another attack, pissed off that this lazy-looking kid was not taking the fight serious. Izuku started to block her attacks, trying to form a plan to get rid of her so he can get to the back behind her. He got an idea he knew he would hate. He stopped canceling her quirk, hoping she would do exactly as he planned. The girl noticed her wings had complete feeling again. Flapping them, she quickly ran to the box and grabbed it, beginning to take off from the building. Izuku ran after her and jumped over the edge of the building to grab at her shoulders. Izuku miscalculated distance, but luckily it didn't affect his plan too bad, as he ended up grabbing her bare ankle, using his telekinetic energy to stick his hand to it. "Are you crazy?" the girl yelled as Izuku dangled upwards of 30 meters in the air, his grip on her ankle being the only thing preventing him from becoming a pancake. "Sometimes I think so," Izuku responded, looking up to not see how high he was, still not comfortable with heights. He dodged a kick she tried to give him. "You call me crazy for doing this, but try to kick me off of you." "Shut up," the girl snapped. She flew closer to a rooftop, preparing her second ability to throw at Izuku to get him off of her. Izuku saw they were farther down and decided to do the rest of his plan. He quickly canceled both of their quirks, causing them to fall to the roof below. Izuku quickly pulled himself higher in her, hitting her stomach hard to get her to let go of the box, grabbing it himself before he released his erase quirk, letting her quickly fly back through the air and prevent them from having a bad crash. Once he was sure he had the box, he quickly let go of her and fell, canceling out both their quirks since they were close enough to the ground for no bad damage to be done. Izuku felt the wind knock out of him when he hit the roof. He managed to keep the box in his hold luckily. Getting up, Izuku began to move quickly into the building, blasting the door open as he went. He had to make sure he had distance between him and this girl before he tried to open the box. This building appeared to have 3 floors. Quickly, he went to the second floor and found another open office space area. Izuku moved into a cubicle near the middle that had its entrance facing away from the stairs, sliding underneath the desk to have a good place to hide and open the box. If she came down there, Izuku could definitely fight her one-on-one, but he already had used his abilities enough to feel a little exhausted, and there was still another challenge to go, so he shouldn't waste everything here. "Yellow team has been eliminated," Hisashi announced. It was now 2 teams, blue and green. The box had a lock on it, a 4-digit combination that Izuku didn't know if he had passed a hint to it or not. It didn't matter because he can spare a little telekinetic energy to help him crack the lock. He began to rotate the pieces, feeling a soft click with his energy every time he got the correct number. He got the final number and had a smile as he opened the box, ready to end this challenge. Before he could, a wave of black energy shook the whole room with force, breaking down cubicles and exposing his hiding spot to the girl, who looked pissed. "You are not going to play me for an idiot that easy," the girl shouted as she sent another wave of dark energy at Izuku, who created a dome to block the attack. His dome cracking just slightly from the hit. Was her quirk like his where he had two in one? The dark energy was definitely something he should look out for. Izuku decided to rush things and erase their quirks, opening the box and putting his hand in it. "I won," Izuku stated. The girl looked pissed but didn't move, waiting for Present Mike to announce the end of the challenge. He didn't. Izuku was wondering why Uncle Hizashi wasn't calling it when he remembered the man's words. Final note. Once again, first two with their hands in the box win. Quill wasn't eliminated, so he had to physically put his hand in the box. Otherwise, this girl could take his spot, which was something she realized just as Izuku did. "All I gotta do is get that box," she said. "Give it to me. You already have your spot. I want my teammate to get the other spot." Izuku shook his head before jumping out the window. Izuku used his telekinetic energy to create a slide to the ground. Quickly back on his feet, he ran for the last place Quill should have been, 2 buildings away. "Get back here, asshole." The girl snapped as she flew out the window with speed, chasing Izuku and catching up fast. Izuku really wished there wasn't a catch right now to the test, and he could just take a nap. Izuku erased her quirk in the hope of slowing her down, but she had caught into him being able to do that and made sure to give herself a boost through the air, crashing into Izuku's back and sending them both to the ground. Izuku had dropped the box and he attempted to grab it, but the girl had gotten to it first, planting her fingers in it. "Well, folks, the show is over. Izuku Aizawa and Azula a main pass," Hizashi announced. Izuku groaned as he heard cursing from a nearby pissed-off redhead. "Would have been easier to give me the box," Azula said as she stood up. "And now you have your face in concrete." Izuku groaned again, knowing that Quill might snap at him. At the exit of their area, Izuku did run into Quill again. "What the fuck just happened?" Quill cursed. He wasn't pissed at Izuku. He just wanted to know how his teammate passed, but he didn't. "We both had to have our hands in the box if we were both still not eliminated. I tried getting it to you, but she was faster than me," Izuku explained. Quill huffed. "I won my shit too. The green guy ran away after I dropped one of those yellow ones. I can always take the normal entrance exam, I guess." Izuku nodded. "At least you have another shot." Quill jabbed Izuku in the chest, keeping his finger there. "You better not fuck up, shrimp. Someone on my team better be winning the whole thing." Izuku nodded again as Quill left, wondering if he would ever meet him again. The final 12 people all stood in a line facing Principal Nizu and their proctors. "You all have done tremendously," Nizu praised them. "I was genuinely on the edge of my seat watching you all give it everything you had. Just like Yue says, plus ultra." The kid Izuku recognized as Anasa said excitedly. Nizu smiled. "Indeed. Some of you even stepped outside of your comfort zones to get your spots." Izuku felt like Nizu knew about his issues with heights and was gearing that at him. The final challenge is a simple one-on-one fight between both contestants from the same group. The winner will be given a final interview, and then the exams are over. Izuku actually groaned at that point at the idea of another fight. Sure, he could erase the girl's quirk since she has like no actual close combat skill, but the hassle of it all was annoying. The other contestants looked at Izuku, figuring he thought he was fucked. "Will Group 1 please follow me?" Midnight asked, as a white and red-haired boy and a bald guy followed her. Group 2. Shouta sighed and watched as the loud kid Anasa and a blonde followed him. Group 3 of you little rascals, Hizashi shouted and made a follow-me motion to Izuku and Azula. Izuku and Azula were now facing each other in a ring, maybe a radius of 5 meters. Hizashi clapped his hands together. "Okay, kiddos. You have really no limits besides not killing each other or the building. Fall outside the ring and you are out. Get to a point where I think it is a clear winner and I will call it. Okay, kids. I am going to enjoy beating your ass." Azula had a cocky look. "That sounds generic." Izuku replied, Katsumi's sass having rubbed off on him. "I'm as ready as I will ever be." Azula scowled at Izuku. "All right, kids. Go nuts." Hizashi stepped back from being in between them. Azula went to fly on her wings, but Izuku grounded her by erasing her quirk again. Can't you do anything else? Azula snapped at him as Izuku rushed her. Izuku didn't reply as he sidestepped her, spinning and giving a hard strike to her shoulder with his forearm. Before she could recover, Izuku swept her legs and pinned her the way he had perfected sparring with Katsumi all the time. I win. Izuku huffed, feeling a headache forming. Azula struggled to try and get out of the hold, but Izuku had her physically outmatched. She scowled as she gave up, pissed off that he of all people beat her. It was only more infuriating how quickly it was. This jeopardized her goals that required Yue. Her master would not be happy. Hisashi whistled. That's match. Might be a new record. Izuku got off of Azula, putting his hands into his pockets and forming his natural posture. Azula wiped off her pants, still scowling before she left. Hisashi slapped his godson on the shoulder. You did amazingly today, Aizawa. An inkling of a smile formed on Izuku's face. All you got left is the closing conversation with Nizu. Hisashi began to lead Izuku to Nizu for the conversation. Nizu poured tea for himself and the boy in front of him. Truth be told, Nizu had slipped on his neutrality of students in recent years, his age softening him. When he found out probably the grumpiest teacher and tired but logical man Shouta Aizawa had a son, he was surprised. Shouta never appeared to be much of a people person. That alone made him think Izuku Aizawa might be unique. But once he found out the boy had his unique quirk, as well as an overly logical output like his father, he knew the boy was definitely unique. Now he had a chance to sit down with the boy personally to see why some of his stuff were such enthusiastic fans of the boy. Izuku accepted the tea and took a drink, not the flavor he prefers, but it was still good. At this point during the exams, I like to just conversate with you students to get a better feeling for you as a person. Understand better the next year of heroes. Nizu said. Izuku nodded. Makes sense. It can help build a connection to them, in case they suffer any of the bad things that happen in the line of hero work. It could also be a way to understand how we ourselves might be better placed as future heroes. Nizu nodded. Yes, I enjoy to see different viewpoints on quirks, what it means to be a hero to different people, and just general life. Want me to give my opinions on those things? Izuku asked. If you don't mind. I can start with quirks. I see quirks as just an extension of the person, like a muscle. A tool really, and over-reliance on quirks in society and revolving life around quirks can have negative effects. Negative effects? Nizu raised an eyebrow, curious where the boy was going. Quirks are a part of people they have when they are born. They at this point in history are as natural as breathing. Basing life around one aspect of many causes problems. Like in history, where people would base choices and actions and their place in society on the color of their skin or the location of their birth. People born with not necessarily better quirks, but more liked quirks will grow big heads, raising themselves on a pedestal, while people born with what could be considered not likable or undesirable quirks will end up getting agitated by that. I believe that actually has to do with current world events like the supervillain attack in America last month. Izuku took a drink of tea. Nizu liked how the boy thought. I believe there is truth to your words. In these changing times, what do you think a hero's place is? Even with changing times, heroes should still help out with everyday life. However, I personally don't believe heroes should be competing for a spot of high ranking in the hero board. They should just do what they think is right. What is your definition of what is right? To me, it is the safety of anyone, whether it is mentally, physically, or emotionally. Anyone who purposely threatens that isn't in the right and should be stopped. From telling someone to stop calling someone a hurtful derogatory slur to full-on assault. In that moment, it is seen it should have someone stepping in at the necessary level of care. Nizu nodded, getting a better understanding of the boy. You are an interesting kid. I try not to be. Izuku responded honestly. Nizu chuckled. Same as your father. I am told I have many similarities to him. Nizu felt that was an understatement, as the kid looked like a younger Shouta with a color scheme change. You will definitely be an interesting kid to watch during your tenure here at UA. Nizu handed Izuku a paper. Congrats on being the first recommended student of this year's class. I'm first. Izuku didn't know how he was first to finish the one-on-one matches. Indeed, and a high-scoring one as well. You are one of 2 people who got a perfect score on our written test too. I was asleep for half of it, Izuku admitted. Nizu nodded. I saw. Can't wait to see what you do fully awake. If you would kindly wait in the first testing room, I will have few last words for all passers of this exam. Izuku nodded and followed Hisashi, who had been outside of the office. Congrats, Lil Zawa. Hisashi clapped Izuku's shoulder. The tests were too long, Izuku stated.